The show Phoenix Magazine readers voted #1 talk radio show in Arizona.
#1 during your morning commute.
#1 whenever news breaks during your day.
And #1 whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, it is the Monty Show. It is actually Football Saturday.
Yes, sir.
On the Monty Show, as you can see, we are live at BBQ Pit Stop in Lehi. BYU and Oregon coming up in about 90 minutes. For the next 60 minutes, we're going to get you ready to go for that game. Big breaking news on Puka Nacua and Gunner Romney. We'll have that for you in 60 seconds. But what a big day it is at BBQ Pit Stop. The smokers are fired up. Jake, the TV setup that Steve and the guys at BBQ Pit Stop
absolutely
have.
incredible. I mean, it must be, the TV itself must be 75 inches. He's got speakers, like, we're getting comments. The speakers are so good, we're getting comments about it bouncing off another building.
Yeah.
So you can definitely hear it.
It's almost got like a stadium effect.
Yes,
out
it's
there.
amazing.
So
it's absolutely amazing.
It's going to be
You can
amazing.
see it from the street when you drive up. The smokers are going. And by the way, I must say, the boys at BBQ Pit Stop, they know a thing or two about smoking. So you might want to ask them questions when you roll up.
Yeah, you may want to do that. Of course, Football Saturday on the Monty Show is presented by Tri-Day Trading, TriDayTrading.com. Make sure you get there, get the hookup. I know a lot of people are grinding, trying to get out of their 9 to 5 with their side hustles. There's not a better one than TriDayTrading.com. They are presenting Football Saturday for us today here at BBQ Pit Stop in Lehi. So I think the biggest story, obviously, is Puka Nacua and Gunner Romney. There is no doubt about that. The update is pretty straightforward from ESPN. Pete Thamel is reporting that Puka Nacua is a game-time decision now. With that ankle, he missed, obviously, last week. They wanted to give him a week. Mm-hmm. They feel like he's recovered enough to the point where Puka's going to give it a go in pregame warm-up. If he passes that test, he should be able to go. Puka Nacua should be good to go today in Eugene at Autzen Stadium as BYU, who, by the way, is still a 3.5-point dog in this game.
Right.
But as BYU takes on Oregon, I think there's a real good chance Puka Nacua is going to play. And I think if you saw this picture right here that's on the screen, that's Puka Nacua and getting off the team flight in Eugene. Like, he looks good. He looks ready. He's got his equipment bag. This might be the biggest, wool over your eyes. If he doesn't play, I'd be really surprised. He looks good. From what I understand, he has had a really good week of practice, Puka did. I would expect him to play. Gunner Romney is another situation, and this deal with his kidney clearly is a larger situation than I think any of us realized. Deseret News, I guess the Des had a couple of weeks ago that he is dealing with an undisclosed kidney injury. He hasn't played yet. This is week 3. He has been on the practice field this week. He was cleared for full contact. If he was able to play, you can't tell me they wouldn't have him out there, Jake. It seems like this kidney situation for Gunner Romney is bigger than I think anybody understands.
Well, and every injury is different, and I think you have to take care of each injury the proper way. And so if he's dealing with, let's say it's a serious blood issue or just something of a more serious variety, like obviously a high ankle sprain is going to be different than a kidney injury. And I think that, it's I'm never a huge fan of speculating on injury just because we don't know. But what I do know is that Gunner is going to work hard to get back. And I think that no matter what, he'll be back this season. I'd be really surprised if he didn't make it back through the season. But I think we don't know. Like, it'd have been great if he was here, or if he was in Eugene for this game. But clearly, he's not ready to go.
Right.
I think the momentum that this squad has with Puka most likely playing. I mean, we haven't had it confirmed, but it looks like he's going to play. Obviously, has to go through warm up. The momentum you get coming off of the news that Puka's probably going to play, and the boys already know if he's playing most likely. Like, let's not play around with it. They know if he's playing or not. So that's why I say on what was that? I guess that was yesterday when we did our locks and everything. We told you, or I specifically told you, I felt like it was going to be a 31-27 kind of game without Puka. So if Puka plays, that just makes me feel better about that score.
See, I'm going to stick at 31-27. I think this is a very close game. This is going to be one of those games where a turnover, a bad decision. I think we saw it on Thursday Night Football this week for San Diego, who plays in L.A., where the Rams play.
Right.
The Chargers lost a football game because a player was out of gas and just simply didn't run a route.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of play that's going to determine whether BYU wins or loses this game, because it's going to be that close. I am a big believer in what BYU has done up front. I am a big on both sides of the football, by the way. I think the offensive line, still, again, the move to put Harris LaChance inside at guard, I think was an absolute steal for them. And I look at, a guy like Gabe Summers, who I think is a really vital contributor, knowing that he is healthy, seeing him play against Baylor.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to be important. That the linebacking core on this team, the Max Tooley's of the world, those guys are going to perform. If they don't perform, BYU doesn't win anyways.
Yeah.
The biggest question to me is who's able to run the football better, because I don't think that Oregon's defensive line is good enough to stay with BYU's offensive line. I think, frankly, that's probably where BYU's going to have their biggest advantage.
Yeah.
And then if you put Puka Nacua into this offense on top of that, we saw what he can do on the very first offensive snap of the season.
Yeah.
That's what that 75-yard jet sweep to the house, that's what Puka brings. So that's why this is such an important equation. And it's nothing against Jaren Hall. It simply is about Puka's explosiveness and that dynamic that he brings to the game.
I think Baylor was obviously an incredibly physical game. It's no secret that Baylor's a big, strong football team. And I think, being that you were able to work through Baylor, you clearly were not overmatched. I think that BYU has confidence in that part of their game right now. And I would expect, frankly, BYU to run the football pretty effectively. I would expect the offensive line to get after it. I would expect the defensive line to have good gap integrity and to be right where they need to be. So that's why I say, I think BYU is going to be fine in this game. I'm not someone who believes that they're outmatched or they're outclassed or somehow they don't have enough talent to win this game. What I think it comes down to is, assuming Puka plays, who has the bigger plays in this game? Because if you can get that 40-yard bomb to Puka early in the first half to take the lead, that'd be huge in this game. But if you're not hitting on those, then it's gonna be a fight. And that's why I say you don't want to go to the fourth quarter down 7 or down 3.
That's
you want
right.
to go to the fourth quarter at least up by a field goal. That way you're more comfortable than having to chase Oregon at their place.
Yeah, and I also think when you look at the sentiment going into this game, I think BYU as an independent has become very adept at playing week to week. Mm-hmm. It's easy to look back. It's easy to look ahead when you play the schedule that BYU has played. But I think that experience has become vital. And I think what we're seeing, is BYU now has an ability to deal with these games 1-to-1. And I think this is their biggest game of the year every single week. It just feels like it's not a playoff game, but it feels like the playoffs every week for BYU.
Well, the fact is you're trying to chase a New Year's Six bowl, so every week is your season until you lose that first game, and I think that's kind of the difference with BYU versus some of these other teams in the college football playoff conversation. That obviously they're not auto bid; they still got to go and win their games, they still got to handle business. But I think we all expect the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, even Michigan, to get into the college football playoff. So for BYU, a lot of people think, hey, it's outrageous to say that they have a chance at the college football playoff. But to me, you have a chance until you lose a game. So frankly, as an independent, every single week is your season until you lose. And I, frankly, would not expect BYU to lose until Arkansas. That Arkansas game, I have a really tough time thinking you're going to win, but that doesn't matter, and we're not going to have that conversation if you lose today it
becomes meaningless.
Yeah, it does. It just doesn't matter. So that's why I say I think it's huge that Puka's got a great shot to play today. I think Jaren's got to continue his path this season, because I do think he's in the Heisman conversation. Imagine if BYU is 10-1 and he's had an amazing season. You really telling me he's not going to be at that ceremony? I think that's tough, So that's why I say I think BYU is in a great place today, and I would expect them to be right in this thing till the end.
I think one of the things that's so interesting is the vitriol from any other fan. Utah State fan yesterday, we got into it on Twitter a little bit over Jaren Hall's status as the best quarterback in the state. I don't even know that it's a conversation anymore. Honest to goodness, I think Jaren Hall is the best quarterback in the state of Utah, and I agree with you. And I know we talked about this leading up to fall camp.
Yeah.
if they have that one-loss season, it would be one, that would mean that Jaron stayed healthy, without question. If this team's going to be a one-loss or a no-loss team, Jaron Hall is going to have to be one of the best players in the country.
100%.
And if that's the case, they're going to wind up in New York. They lose today to Oregon. That probably doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think it's not the problem is because Oregon got rolled by Georgia in week 1. If you lose to this team, I mean, it sends the wrong message. Like if you were to lose this game in a really tight one, I think people are like, well, it's BYU. You know, I didn't really expect them to win, but I think for anybody who follows this team, you know that BYU is more than talented enough to do this. And that's why I say we're having a different conversation the last couple of years than we were in like 2015 or 2016, let's say. Like,
my God.
We're not talking about being bowl eligible. We're talking about New Year's Six bowls, getting to the college football playoff, and Kalani Sitaki really defining what this program needs to be year in and year out. And that, to me, is why you're in the position you're in. Because Kalani was developed. He knows how to run a program. He knows how to recruit. And frankly, I am a big believer in the Poly Pipeline. I think having that relationship with it is huge. That's why you get the talent you get. So I love where BYU is at. I think they're going to win this game. I do think it's going to be close. And the only thing I would say that keeps them from winning is turning the football over.
Is it lost? Because it's not lost on me. You realize Oregon wanted to hire Kalani Sitaki.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting when you talk about the program that they've built. Mm-hmm. Because you're not going to do, and I think most people know this as well, this is not an easy job to fill.
Right.
BYU football, the head coach at BYU, is a really difficult position to fill. Mm-hmm. And I think there are probably, less than 5 candidates, legitimate 5 candidates if this job were open. Kalani Sitaki, he's not a candidate. He's the head football coach at BYU.
He's the guy.
This is what he was meant to do, and he's talked a lot about that. And so today when I'm reading, and it wasn't even today, I guess last Tuesday, Nebraska fires Scott Frost. Mm-hmm. And, national media is like, oh, well, Kalani Sitaki is going to be a candidate. Kalani Sitaki's not a candidate for the Nebraska
He's not
job.
going to Nebraska, bro.
And I think it's that kind of sentiment that tells you the level that Kalani Sitaki has risen to.
Okay, people are walking in, not to cut you off. People are walking in with smoked pizza. We've officially arrived.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they fired up the Traegers here. And by the way, our guys at Papa Murphy's Pizza.
Delivering, bro.
Yeah, we've got a dozen Papa Murphy's pizzas here. We walked into the South Jordan location, and to see them making the pizzas, and it's fantastic. Then to show up at BBQ Pit Stop, this amazing TV and speaker setup outside.
Truly incredible.
The Traegers are fired up. They're smoking.
Yes.
And the pizza's always great.
I'm for real.
The pizza's always great. So, please interrupt me with pizza off the smoker because that's far more important than anything that I have to say. But what I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by pizza was that I think Kalani is BYU. Mm-hmm. He's not Nebraska. He's not Washington or Oregon. Kalani Sitaki is the exact right guy for this gig.
Well, and I think a lot of the conversation around the Kalani Oregon thing was, there was a lot of belief that Kalani was just using Oregon as leverage to get the BYU contract situation hammered out. And I think that Kalani is a brilliant individual. I mean, understanding that to get a contract done or to, if you want to call it an agreement, to get that done, it's not good enough for Kalani just to be trying to sign with one school. He's got to have that built-in interest from other schools. So you're going to hear, when the next window comes up where he's got to renew or whatever ends up happening, you're going to hear about schools trying to get Kalani. But I truly believe, and Kalani spoke on this, if you follow the program, but I believe that Kalani truly cherishes the job. He's not just saying, hey, yeah, I'm a great fit for BYU in this program, but he's saying, hey, like whether it's from the religious side of the job, whether it's from, just what BYU represents as a school, or just straight up from the football side of the job. He loves all facets of it, and I think that's really crucial, especially coming off of the Bronco Mendenhall days when the field was a little bit different. So that's why I think BYU is in such a good position right now because you have a good fitted head coach. The players love playing for him. That's why we get that's why we get the Jaron and Jake hug on the sideline after Jake almost got expelled from BYU from missing kicks against Baylor. Like it just is. It's just everything you want. I don't mean to wax poetic about BYU. I'm certainly not a BYU fan per se, but it's just cool to see that in the state of Utah we have these two awesome programs in Utah and BYU that are trending in the right direction. Like even with Utah, I think we can all agree that they are pushing forward in the direction you'd want to go.
Yeah, I think it's remarkable how far football's come in this state in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you look at the talent gap that existed at BYU, they just weren't big enough, right? You look at the tragedy, 2 players getting killed in the span of a year at Utah, and not winning at the level they wanted to win at, not playing games for at the level that they wanted to play games at. I mean, there was a real sense of doom and gloom about football.
Your starting
in the state
quarterback
of Utah.
quitting on you.
Yeah, I mean, your starting quarterback quite literally just walking off the team because he was no longer the starter. He just wasn't good enough to play at Utah. To the season that BYU had last year, to the Rose Bowl loss that Utah had last year. The fortunes in the state of Utah have completely changed.
Yes.
Over and really, it started the day that Kalani got the job, and I think it just continues now. And to see like this Utah game today is no small thing. This Utah San Diego State game. Utah is a 21-point home favorite over San Diego State tonight. What is it? 8 o'clock, ESPN2. The Utes are a 21-point favorite.
Yeah.
That's a crazy number. Crazy number. Especially coming out of a Florida game that they should have won. I don't know that last week even mattered, frankly, with all due respect. I don't know that last week even – I think they scored 139 points on Southern Utah last night. Yeah, with all due respect, T. Like, I don't know that it mattered. But you look at the games of consequence now. Utah is just building to October 8th against USC.
Yeah.
But all these games are of consequence. You look at BYU, and I know everybody's like, hey, we're off for a couple weeks after this week. Au contraire, mon frere, you are not off for a couple of weeks. Every game that BYU has. That's why I said yesterday on the show, and I know Tricky T freaked out or whatnot. I'm telling you, the Utah State game is the next scariest game for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like you.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people are concerned about injuries in that game, as they should be, and I think that. As much as I love Kalani, I think one of the things that I don't love about Kalani is he's too nice to teams that they should be pounding. They should be putting 70 on Wyoming or whatever it is. You should be putting 70 on these teams.
I do think Kalani's too nice in that respect. I wish Kalani Sitaki was a guy
I didn't forget about Idaho State last year, friends. That was not the performance they needed to have. And again, I'm not trying to be negative about the past, but I think when you're trying to get into the college football playoff, because I'm going to keep saying that until they lose, like they can get there, but they have to go undefeated, and you need to put up 70 against these not good teams.
Well, I'll go back to the South Florida Miami Chamber of Commerce Bowl against Memphis. Remember the brawl against you look at those situations, and I hope it's different now. I can't see BYU players conducting themselves like that again. I just can't. But you can't. Last year you had a player getting smacked in the face, and really nothing was done about that. When you have a chance to put your foot on a guy's neck, you got to do that.
Yes.
Because most media members are not going to watch BYU games. Either it's on at an odd time. That's why today 1:30 kickoff on Fox is prime time. That's prime time.
Do they get 3 million viewers?
Yeah, I think they do. But they also don't have the built-in advantage that Utah has.
Right.
Utah is in the Pac-12. Utah playing San Diego State's a big game. That's on ESPN2 tonight. Utah's going to naturally have more viewers, in my opinion. But then you find out that BYU plays Baylor, and it is the largest primetime late-night window for ESPN since 2016.
Yeah.
both teams are playing games of consequence.
The AP voters have no excuse not to watch BYU. I think we can all agree on that. You don't have an excuse to just say, well, it's BYU. We'll see you later in the year or something. You don't have that excuse anymore. And that to me is what I get a little bit burned out with is like, we talked, last week while we were, doing the show on the couch in Hawaii that the AP voters didn't have BYU on their top 25 after week 1, and then after week 2 you have them all the way up to 18th.
Because you have MLS writers voting.
Yes.
And with all due respect, Major League Soccer absolutely has a place in this town. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
You can't have Minnesota's soccer beat writer voting in the AP poll.
Yeah.
Because he's not watching BYU. He left BYU off his top 25 ballot and then miraculously vaulted them halfway up his ballot the next week. It's just crazy.
Admittedly, I can get down with, if after week 1 you want to leave a team out of the top 25, okay, I can kind of respect that. If I think they should be in there, but you don't, okay, I can kind of respect that. But then to put them at 18 tells me everything I need to know. You got on the bandwagon of, hey, BYU's actually cool and they're a good team, rather than actually watching the game. And that's what I have trouble with. And I think that, again, obviously we have a lot to talk about with today's matchup, but I think that, again, if let's say BYU wins this game by 2 touchdowns somehow, I know that that's unlikely. Nobody thinks that's going to happen. Let's say they dominate this game. Then what will be said if someone doesn't put them in the top 10? Because that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
By the way, did I mention that Utah's a 21-point favorite?
Yeah,
tonight?
It's crazy. It's crazy. And frankly, I don't know if that says more about Utah or more about San Diego State. Because I think you can make a case either way. But I think they're going to cover that number. But it's still a huge number.
Yeah, Football Saturday brought to you by TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Check it out. Let's get your comments in here. Appreciate everybody watching the show. Everybody watching the show live here at BBQ Pit Stop in Lehi. Where's my guy, the blind swordsman DS says, sorry I cannot be there. I got the Rona.
Come on.
Oh, blind swordsman. We'll be out and about. Don't worry, you'll be able to see us. Thanks for the $2 tip.
Yeah, thank you.
Blind swordsman, appreciate you for that. Sorry you couldn't be here. Let's see. Greg Hawkins is in this chat. Greg, hoping to see you. Cody Strickland says, I'm coming, boys. Let's go. Duck hunting. Says today's the day.
Yes, it is.
Austin Rollins predicts 27-13 BYU over Oregon.
So this is the exact score I'm talking about. That's a convincing win. You controlled the game. Like, obviously, that's a huge win, a statement win over Oregon. If they do that today, they have to be top 10. I think there's no way around that. Like, I have a real problem that Kentucky was top 10 and BYU was not top 10. I just have an issue with that. I think BYU is better than Kentucky, but this is my point with these writers. 1 week they're not on at all. The next week they're 18th, and then someone's going to put them at 11 instead of 10. That's going to happen.
What do you got there, Mrs. Monty?
What do we have here?
Mic her up.
Let's see.
I brought Jake a flat. I just wanted
She brought me a flat.
That's an insult. Wow, look at those wings. Okay, so we know how to make wings, right? We talk about this on a pretty regular basis on the Ironwood 885 back at the Casa de Monte
Casa
crib.
de Monte, yes.
Yeah, but these guys with these wings, like here at BBQ Pit Stop, they're on a different level.
Absolutely incredible.
They are absolutely on a different level. That's your flat.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
by the way,
Harris LeChance says flats are better than drums. I don't need to say anymore.
What does Harris LeChance
I don't need to
know?
say anything more.
He's a football player. He just eats meat. You put it in front of him.
Yeah.
Exactly right. It's all good. Those look amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing.
Really
By the way, yes, Mrs. Monty is floating around here. Somebody asked. Ashton also says, first thing they need to talk about is the status on Nacua.
Well, we did.
Game time decision.
I think, and this is kind of what you were saying, it would be the greatest trick job to be done in recent memory if Puka doesn't play. I just think you don't roll up off the plane, all smiles, looking great, like ready to go, and then not play. That's just not Puka style.
Again, I'll put this picture back up on the screen.
Put it on the screen. Put it on the screen.
The smile on Puka's face alone.
You can see he's clearly ready to go. And by the way, can I just say, the branding in that photo for Delta is absolutely incredible. Big kudos to BYU.
That's not accidental, my man.
That thing is, just perfect.
Yeah, but by the way, let me take this. I need to take, with all due respect to Ashton. I need to take Ashton's comments off the screen.
Right.
Because we got to see Puka's bag.
Right.
Okay, so now I got to go down here. I got to take this up.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to understand, and listen, I know that all of my windows at home are covered in tinfoil and,
Right.
you know, like.
You're a big InfoWars guy.
Q's my favorite letter, whatever it is you want to throw out here about conspiracy theories, I'm fine. I want to understand how people are like, hey, look, you can see the cleats in his bag. He's playing. What are you talking about? His bag is zippered closed, and you barely see the bag at all. I'm still trying to figure out how people are like, wow. You know, when I use my X-ray vision to look in his bag, I see his helmet, his pads, and some cleats.
You know he's a football player, right? Like, we know that, right?
I don't know if he's playing or not based on how he's carrying his bag.
Now, the neck pillow looks amazing, by the way.
Do you know that neck pillow is backwards?
Oh, is it?
Do you know this hack on neck pillows? The travel neck pillow that's like a U?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Relax. It's a U. You know the open part's supposed to be in the back so that you can sleep with the lean on.
Oh, I did not know that. Yeah.
But
okay.
You cannot delineate whether he's playing or not.
Yeah. Well, look,
based on that picture.
Again, I'm just going to maintain the guy doesn't get on the plane and come out to the stadium not to play. I just think it's. You don't do that, and I think
not with that goofy smile on his goofy smile on his face.
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
Everyone knows this is a big game,
bro.
man.
Look at his face. Look at Puka's face right there.
Yeah.
Look at that? That has got to be one of the goofiest smiles ever.
He looks happy, man.
He does look happy.
He looks ready to go, and that's what I'm saying. He doesn't look like someone who his leg hurts or whatever. Like, he looks ready.
He looks happy.
Yeah.
And I say more power to the kid.
Yeah.
Because anytime you miss a game of consequence, if you're Puka Nacua, you don't want to watch the Baylor game.
Yeah.
You're wanting to, and Harris talked about that this week on the show as well. Like, you're not trying to watch football. When you go to BYU to play football or you go to Utah to play football, you want to be on the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's the payoff. That's why we lift all them weights.
Exactly.
Greg Hawkins says, sup, y'all. Justin Salas says, feels like this game will be faster than the Baylor game, so having Puka back will be huge. Well, there is that conversation. I don't care if Dan Lanning's like a first-year coach or a 10th-year coach at Oregon. He's going to have speed.
Yes.
They've always got athletes. They've always got Nike money. He's going to have speed, right? The difference is, I think, and here's another real watershed moment in the history of Kalani Sitaki at BYU, BYU's better than Oregon up front. Mm-hmm. I think BYU's defensive line, especially if Gabe Summers is able to go full bore, like no issues, I think with Gabe Summers playing, this defensive line can play with anybody.
Yeah.
Their offensive line can play with anybody. So I feel really good about that. I think that's absolutely a tip of the cap to Kalani in the way they've recruited.
And I think that was one of the biggest learning lessons out of the Baylor game. I think a lot of people thought that BYU was going to get pushed around by Baylor. I think a lot of people thought that. You mind hitting buttons over here?
My bad.
I'm trying to talk. All right.
My bad.
Black screening me. Okay. Anyway, point is, I think that was a big learning lesson out of the Baylor game. People thought that BYU was going to get pushed around.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And I think that it's development. Like, it used to be that when BYU played Utah, everyone would always say, "Oh, well, Utah is going to push them around, and they don't have the size to compete." Well, those days are over at BYU. And I think not only it obviously matters for this year, but I think as we kind of talk about BYU's story heading into the Big 12, having size up front and just in the trenches overall is absolutely huge. So I don't think they're getting pushed around at all today.
Live at BBQ Pit Stop in Lehi, Football Saturday on the Monty Show, presented by TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Get there if you've been trying to take a side hustle and turn it into your full-time gig. I'm telling you that day trading's the way to go. TryDayTrading.com, a local company. They're right here in Lehi, believe it or not.
Yes.
Ryan and the guys at TryDay Trading, local business owners, check them out online. TryDayTrading.com/Monty is where you get the hookup on that. Couple more, because I think there's actually some good thoughts here. There's a lot of people talking about drums versus flats.
Yeah.
Scott B says drums are better than flats. You generally get more meat on them.
Well, more meat is the name of the game, apparently. So,
it is. And what I'm trying to tell you is men eat drums, okay?
And big shout-out to Don's Meats. Gave us 150 wings today. Thank you, Don.
Yeah, how about Don's Meats since like 1958 or whatever it is?
Yes.
Don's Meats, West Jordan, Redwood Road. If you haven't been to Don's Meat, highly encourage it.
So,
but Jake, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you've basically forced me to be a flat guy. I used to kind of like both, but now I'm a flats guy. And by the way, we did bring the ranch, so we're ready.
Yeah. By the way, I would also point out that we do have Super Chicks Ranch dressing here.
Yes.
Now, I've told you on the show.
Oh,
there you
they're
are.
eating it.
There you go. The Super Chicks Ranch dressing.
Incredible.
I'm just telling
Truly
you.
incredible.
I had an awkward moment at Super Chicks buying the dressing last night.
So we go to Super Chicks, we order our food, we sit down, we're outside on the patio. The lady comes out, to deliver the food. Really nice lady, doing her job great. And what do you proceed to ask her? I
said, do you guys put pure cut cocaine in your ranch
Literally
dressing?
pure. He says to the lady, did you put pure cut cocaine in your ranch? And she's like, sir, I just work here.
And she didn't even say that. She just and ah'd me and then walked away.
Yeah.
And the worst part is she had to come back to bring Jake his peanut butter cup
It
thing.
was incredible.
Anyway. I digress. I'm watching Mrs. Monty interact with all the listeners. It's great to see you guys. Gabe Rasmussen says, I think the offense looks a lot better than last week. Jaron has had a week to practice with that new wide receiver squad. Well, wow. I don't. If he's going to have a better relationship with anybody than Chase Roberts, I don't know who it'll be.
Yeah.
Because those 3 plays, the touchdown, the long throw down the left sideline, and then that throwback where the entire offensive line room was running down the field, leading Jaron Hall. If you can have more, hey, look at that. If you can have more, how shall I say, synergy with wide receivers, come on.
Well, I think the conversation for today, over last week is, again, obviously if Puka plays, still a question mark. I don't think we have confirmation yet, but assuming he plays, this dynamic of having, Keanu Hill, Chase Roberts, and Puka all together, plus what you already had to work with in the run game, I think that's why I'm excited about it, because I think BYU hasn't even put it all together offensively yet against, anybody else besides USF, obviously. They blew them up, obviously, handled their business there. But I really would love to see today in this game, them really put it together. Like, 65, 66% completion for Jaron, spreading the football out. Obviously, if Puka plays, he's probably going to be your 100 yards for the game guy, I would assume, if he is a full go. But again, it's that big play we've been talking about. Do we get the deep down the sideline play? Do we get that long 40-yard shot?
Breaking news. According to Jay Drew, BYU will be down 2 defensive linemen.
Man.
Tyler Batty and Earl Tuiati Mariner will not play today.
There we go.
Neither will Puka Nacua or Gunner Romney. So Puka
no
Nacua
Puka.
will not.
No Puka.
And it's
Incredible.
Jay Drew on Twitter, according to BYU Sports Nation.
Yeah.
You're going to be down Puka Nacua and Gunner Romney again.
Well, no, the Gunner thing isn't surprising. I mean,
not at all.
Nobody expected Gunner to play, but not. Man, I'm just surprised by that. Like
that's a huge story. I mean, it is.
Man.
I mean, your margin for error now shrinks. Now, and especially on the defensive line, I think. Look, Tyler Batty, for all he's not, is a really solid contributor, and you need, in my opinion, what he does is he does his job. And looking at the Daily Universe Sports, it now indeed does have a picture of Puka Nacua on the sideline in a boot.
Well, apparently Puka's just a really nice guy and has a great personality, right? I mean, I don't know what else
I
to
am
say,
really
man.
surprised that he's not playing.
Yeah.
So Puka Nacua will not play
I mean,
today.
I'm not going to sit here and put a dark cloud over this game just because Puka's not playing. I mean, I said yesterday, even without Puka, I felt like BYU was in perfectly fine position to go out and win this game. That said, without Puka, I think the execution level has to be at an all-time high. You can't afford a turnover. You can't afford to have the Justin Herbert, not running a route properly, so you throw a pick six situation. Like, you can't have anything like that in this game.
Well, I'm telling you that Tuiati Mariner is just as big a loss as Puka Nacua. I mean, like, they need bodies inside today. Tyler Batty, it just shrinks your margin for error.
Yeah.
This feels like a 31-27, 34-31 game. Yeah. That's what this feels like to me
One
now.
Possession the whole way, and that's and BYU has been pretty good. I think the stat is Jaron's like 7-1, in really tight games or whatever
He is a big game performer, Jaron Hall.
100%.
But what does this say is we're now less than an hour away from kickoff at Autzen Stadium live at BBQ Pit Stop in Lehi. Come on out, watch the game with us.
By the way, you can still enter. You can
enter to win until kickoff. So the tumbler is right here. Mrs. Monty is guarding it with her existence. By the way, I don't know if it was accidental or not, but Mrs. Monty fashioned up for BYU today. She is wearing the full, blue Blue
Whoa,
on blue.
wow.
She's got blue Jordans on.
Okay.
She's got the blue Lululemons on.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
There it is. Yeah, so.
Mrs. Monty's more available than Puka is today.
Yeah,
apparently,
apparently,
you know what I mean?
and she's not wearing a
Yeah,
boot
she's
on
gotta
her
get the
ankles.
pads on.
So that's huge breaking news that Puka Nacua will not play today.
Yeah.
Joshua Blaylock-Dixon gives us $2 to say that
Giselle
is better than. It's a family show today. Giselle is better than drums. Okay.
See, this is your fault.
It is.
You came up with that, not me.
Yeah, let's see. Exhela Heisa. I hope I got that first name right. I listen to you guys all the time because my husband listens to you all the time. Now you're how I start my day.
Let's go.
Oh, we appreciate that. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. The blind swordsman DS, brah. I like wings, drums, flats. Don't care. I weigh 320 pounds for a reason. Well, this is very true. This is very true. And now Greg Hawkins is criticizing Ranch because he's a blue cheese guy. Man, my lord. Mike Maple says they have announced him out. Yes,
sad day,
they
bro.
have now.
Sad day.
So I think that's
in the comments, what is confidence level right now? I mean, obviously, now that it's confirmed that he's not playing, are you guys nervous? Are you still feeling good? Like, where are we at on this?
I think this is a 60-40 game. This is very close. By the way, Jake Oldroyd
might want to make some kicks
that
today.
First kick has
You know
got to
what I mean?
go in.
Like, seriously.
Somebody, I don't remember who said that yesterday. That first kick has to go in.
Yes.
Because he's the guy that could make or break this game. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you explain that. Talking with Raphael podcast says we're in the building all about the flats. Raphael.
Well,
come on now. Cade Chrisleep says, touching tribute by BYU. They placed roses on the 4-yard line in honor of the late Oregon player Spencer Webb, who died this past
very
July.
nice. Well done.
Yeah, that was
very well done.
That was a rough story. Tom Basilius says 31-7 BYU. I don't think so.
I don't know about all that, man.
Joshua Blaylock-Dixon says, I think BYU wins their next 4 games. Well, that'd be huge. That would be huge if that were the case.
I think right now, because Puka's out, we can't use the word expectation or we expect them to win those 4 games, but I expect them to be right in it with a chance to win. That's what I expect. I think.
Well, frankly, I mean, when the play happened, I thought Puka broke his leg.
Oh, it was gnarly,
it was a
dude.
nasty play.
Yeah, they're very fortunate he didn't break his leg.
I thought he had broken his leg when that play. They fell right on it. It was that twist your ankle sideways in the wrong direction. Not great. Let's see. EB16 says confidence level is still high. We beat a tough Baylor team without Puka and Gunner. They can do it again.
I agree with that.
And I agree with that. I just think now that your margin for error is much smaller. Anytime you take a guy the caliber of Puka Nacua off the field offensively, you're gonna feel that.
I think what people are saying though is that because they didn't have him last week, it's kind of the same. Like it's kind of the same feel this week. It's not like he made a big play last week that kind of got you that win. Like he obviously wasn't available last week, and now he's not available this week. So it's kind of like Jaren and the boys just have to figure it out. And I think that's. Frankly, I think, 5-6 weeks from now when Puka's back or whatever, whenever he comes back, right, and we get to the end of this year, and let's say that somehow, BYU is a double-digit win team this year, this will be part of Jaren's story. How did he carry and run this offense while some of his best wide receiver talent is not in the starting lineup and not available? I think it absolutely matters if they're able to get to double-digit wins this year.
Yeah, listen, I have no doubt about that. Man. This is going to be a very close game. I am much more. My instinct says it's in the 20s. I don't think either of these teams score in the 30s now.
So are we saying like 27-24? Are we saying 24-21?
This feels like a 28-27, 28-20. Like it's going to be one play.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it feels like in the 20s. I just don't know why Oregon would let BYU get down the field.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be, and again, I know this is going to sound moronic and simple. Jaren's going to have to make plays to win the game.
Yeah, he's going to he's got to have a mid-60s completion percentage.
That toss back to him last week, you're going to have another wrinkle here because I think we've yet to see explosiveness in the running game.
I was just going to say another wrinkle is Christopher Brooks getting loose in this game. That's what your wrinkle is, and I think that the confidence level for me in that is high. I think that you were able to push Baylor around a little bit last week, and I feel very confident that Oregon is not nearly as strong as Baylor is in that respect. So I think while Oregon has a lot of talent on that defensive line and in their linebacking core, I think that BYU is going to dictate the pace of the game through their own run game and execution. So I would expect Brooks to have a big day.
Yep, Football Saturday presented by TryDayTrading.com. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Check it out online. Free webinar waiting there for you. It costs you nothing. There is no obligation. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Hook it up, register, and watch that free webinar. And again, I think the news today, and as we get ready for BYU and Oregon, no Puka Nacua today, so he is officially out of this game. There are photos now of him on the field in a boot in his warm-up, so he is strictly, moral support, if you will, for his Cougar teammates.
Yeah.
But I do want to switch gears real quick and spend 10 minutes on Pac-12 TV. Mm-hmm. I think this is a huge story that flew under the radar last night. It came out yesterday that the Pac-12 and ESPN are hundreds of millions of dollars apart.
Donnie, please.
I said hundreds of millions of dollars apart.
Yeah.
On a TV deal. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to go back to where I've been since we talked to several people about this on the show.
Yeah.
I'll just say I think ESPN wants a merger between the Big 12 and the Pac-12.
Right.
I think that's ultimately what ESPN wants. If they're hundreds of millions of dollars apart with the Pac-12 on a TV deal, and that's the report from ESPN, they're not getting that deal done this season.
No.
I mean, hundreds, the problem is the Pac-12 lost all of its value in Southern California to ESPN. And the issue is now, who's paying? Why would ESPN pay $300 million a year, a penny more than that? Because that's what most people think it's worth.
Well, the truth of the matter is the Pac-12 is hundreds of millions of dollars away from the road to salvation. I mean, you are not going to survive in this current climate, and I don't think that, because it's the season San Diego State is having so far, I don't think San Diego State is as attractive as they were before the season started. I think before the season started, you built a new stadium, everything was awesome. It's San Diego, which is the only available Southern California market right now with what the Big Ten did. So that's why I say we're heading towards a Big Ten SEC 20-team conference setup. It's going to happen. Obviously, we won't get there for probably 10 years, but I think the Pac-12 and, whatever, the Pac-10 at this point, I guess, is a dying conference. There's no way around that. So to me, it's always been incredible when you have George Kliavkoff, the commissioner of the Pac, coming out here and saying that they're the best conference known to man or since sliced bread, when really you don't have a way to survive right now. And look, with all due respect to programs like Arizona State.
With all due respect.
Yeah, with all due respect to Washington State and Oregon State and Arizona State, you have good programs, but they are not big enough programs to sustain a conference on their own. They are the programs that are those cherry on tops that really complete the feel of a conference. So that's why I say, I look at Utah and I'm kind of terrified of where Utah is going to go right now, because there's clearly not a public plan anyway for them to move, but there's also not really a plan for the Pac-12 to get something done with ESPN. So is everyone just going to get lumped into the Big 12 and that's going to be Utah's fate? I certainly hope not, but that's why I keep saying, if you're a BYU fan, you're in the catbird seat. You're sitting here saying, hey, we're in the Big 12. We just beat Baylor. We're looking really good right now. You can be comfortable.
Well, I think the hard part, if you're a Utah fan right now, is you just don't have anything to hang on to. And when you look at all of the arrogance and all of the vitriol that's been in, this town since they've been in the Pac-12.
Oh, still in this town.
And
right?
for certain.
Still in this town.
But the dominance by BYU as an independent, only to end up in the Big 12. For now, I think Utah needs the Big 12. I don't think it's a thing where Utah has any way to write their own ticket. I don't think there's a place where Utah can say, well, hey, we're going to go and do this. You're not Oregon with Phil Knight's money, who, by the way, is having trouble getting into the Big Ten.
But here's my problem with Oregon. They are not better than Utah. That's the problem. And that's what I hate about Utah's situation.
What am I going to say right now?
Well, yeah, it's branding. I get it.
Exactly
hey,
right.
BYU knows how to YouTube better. We get it, right? That's what a lot of this situation
but the cut,
is about.
You know what? It's funny you say that.
Yeah.
If you watch BYU on YouTube, they do the cut every week, right? It's basically the story of that week's
It's their
game.
behind-the-scenes piece.
What is Utah doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the post-game celebration, and they're all singing Utah Man and throwing water all over the place.
Yeah, it's great.
I need a larger presence than that.
Mm-hmm.
And perception is reality in all things. I think we all know that. The perception is Utah's a small school.
Mm-hmm.
Utah doesn't have a
Nationally
fan
speaking.
base. Yeah, nationally speaking, Utah's a small school. They don't have a fan base. You have no idea. The average college football fan, if you go to Alabama or Georgia, the best teams in the country, do you think they have any idea how many guys Kyle Whittingham has put in the NFL? Do you think any Alabama or Georgia fan either cares or knows that Utah has one of the best secondaries in the country?
This is Coach Saban.
I'm going to say they don't.
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side of that coin is this is why USC was able to go to the Big Ten.
Whoa! This is why.
This
Thank
is why.
you. Put some
This is
respect on
why.
it.
This is how.
Dang.
USC and UCLA were able to raise the chutzpah, if you will, and just walk out the door without telling anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I go back to what the president at USC did. 1 year ago, she was asked to be on a committee, a small group of presidents in the Pac-12. Hey, we're going to get together and we're going to make a decision on should we expand and be aggressive here in the Pac-12 and grow our footprint. Unequivocally, she killed those conversations.
Okay. So that's how it's going to be.
She killed that effort by the Pac-12 to expand. Less than a year later, she left without anybody knowing or anybody's permission
I'm for real.
and took the $100 million payday in the Big Ten. This
for
conference
real.
has been dead for a year and nobody knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew it.
Somebody did.
And USC knew it and UCLA knew it.
And by the way, what happened to those two programs? Well, they're off. They're off in the promised land.
All I'm saying is if you're a Utah Ute fan, you better hope they get an invite to the Big 12. And I say you better hope because I don't think it's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
The value that comes with San Diego State, the value that comes with the Arizona schools, the values.
I disagree. I don't think the Arizona schools have a ton of value. That's just my
I think
opinion, though.
Arizona basketball. Look at what BYU's going into as a basketball conference. That's not arguable.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult
thing. The Big 12 is
Yeah.
the best basketball conference in the country. Then
Yeah.
you add Jimmer's alma mater into that, and you add Houston and Cincinnati and Central Florida, and all of a sudden BYU is swimming with sharks. You add Arizona to that, and now what do you have?
But see, to me, it's like Arizona. Everyone always says, "Oh, they have a great basketball program," and while that might be true, and while they may be very proficient at funneling Adidas money to get DeAndre Ayton into the program,
Wow.
like to me,
Sweaty
it's-
Sean?
yeah, like that's what they're known for to me, and maybe that's me being the youngin on the show, and like maybe I don't have enough appreciation for what Arizona.
But
used
you
to
don't
be.
know who Lute Olson is or what he's
I
about.
know who he is. I don't have an appreciation for what he did, mainly because it's not relevant now. Nobody cares about Lou and everything that went down back then when we're talking about the Big 12 and what this looks like. I'm just telling you, it doesn't.
Look at the millennial throwing out the back then.
It does not
hey,
matter, man.
You know, when you were a kid or you were young in any way, shape, or form, none of that matters.
Yeah,
the
I
Godfather
know
sucks.
everything in the 80s is better than right now, but I'm telling you, none of that matters right now. Like, you have to be relevant. You have to win football games. You got to win basketball games for it to matter.
No,
Why-
you're right.
like-
You're absolutely right.
So that's why I say let's not sit here and characterize the Arizona schools as a great value ad. They are an ad that adds a little bit of TV money. Let's be honest about it. It's like, hey, we're
I
gonna
think
add that
Arizona,
little bit.
whether you love them or hate them, Arizona is a basketball school. That
Yeah.
is a
Oh, for
really
sure.
good ad as a basket. In the Big 12 is the best basketball conference. You get these 4 schools, including BYU, in next year. I think you add 4 more on top of that, and you add San Diego State. I think you're in the driver's seat. But not to be redundant, the Pac-12 is dead. It's over. There is no road to salvation. When you're hundreds of millions of dollars apart, there's no road to salvation.
Yeah.
Let's get some of your comments in here. Greg Hawkins says, ranking before week 6 are garbage. Vegas lines are the standard.
Agreed.
Well, it is odd that Vegas is almost to the point.
Yeah.
Like, they're so close. Even the overs on games, Vegas is almost always close. The big Mugamba says Pac-12 looking at NFTs in Peacock to save them. Well, but are you watching Pac-12 football on Amazon? Let's say that the Pac-12 does a streaming deal with Amazon.
I think we need to stop saying Pac-12 or Big Ten or SEC football, and we need to start saying good football matchups, because I don't like if Alabama and Georgia were in the Pac-12, I'd be watching Pac-12 football. But they're in the SEC, so I'm watching the SEC on ESPN now. You know, like That's like, so to me as a football fan, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for your team, but if it's not your team, like if you're a BYU fan, you're obviously going to watch most weeks, but then obviously you're going to watch high caliber college football. Like,
would you
the games you pay
subscribe?
attention
Okay,
to.
would you subscribe to Amazon to watch Utah
I would
football?
not subscribe to Amazon Prime just to watch Utah football, mainly because I already, like most people, I don't have the number off the top of my head, obviously, but there's obviously a ton of people who already have Amazon Prime from a shopping perspective. So you're already rolled into it. That's the brilliance. That's why I think Amazon is a good fit. There's a lot of people saying, well, Apple bought everything MLS, and they kind of, Apple's style is to buy everything and make you get on their platform. I don't necessarily love that as much because I feel like that's where we are now. Like, that's the Pac-12 network on Dish, where you have to go and find another service. So to me, Amazon's the better route, but we'll see what happens.
Greg Hawkins just simply says, I hate USC.
Well,
look, Greg Hawkins, I know your new movie's out and you're a big-time TV and movie star, but I agree with you. I hate USC as well. See, look at me plugging Greg Hawkins' movie.
Well done.
That's right. That's right. Greg Hawkins says Utah would win by 2 touchdowns against BYU. Stop.
Another day, sir.
Stop. Yeah,
Another
today
day.
it's the wrong day
Next
for that.
comment.
That conversation truly drives me crazy.
Yeah.
The ifs and ands about who would win at BYU
Because
and
it's
Utah.
endless. There's no definitive.
Come on. Okay. We have got about
11 minutes.
We've got 11 minutes left in this show.
Yep.
Let's get into the meat of the 2 games. Obviously, we're going to start with Utah and San Diego State because they're later. This feels like a proving point for Utah. This is San Diego State's a team that cannot cover the throw. Like, their pass defense is not good. I think we know who Utah is as a running team. I like their offensive line. I love Tavion Thomas, and I like Cam Rising. The guy I need to see today is Devon Vele. If Utah is going to amount to anything this year, if they are going to have any chance against USC, who, again, I think is the best offense in the country, but a mid-level mediocre defense.
Yes.
If they're going to have any chance against USC, Devon Vele is going to have to play exceptionally well. Thanks. That starts tonight, 8 o'clock, ESPN2, against San Diego State. And I just think he's the guy that's going to win or lose a lot of matchups today.
Yeah, well, and it's the same thing, with Devon that it is with Puka. Like, when your best talent is hurt or you don't have a best talent, you're obviously trying to create something out of nothing. And I'm just going to keep saying it. Like, Dalton Kincaid and Brant Kuithe are phenomenal football players. They are some of the best tight ends in the country, in my opinion. But tight ends can only go so far in a game, and I think you need that outside over the top threat. It's just you just need it, and I think whether you're talking about Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill, whether you're talking about Utah, or whether you're talking about BYU, when you don't have that over the top, safety's got to respect the speed. The underneath game becomes your only game, which means you're going to get eaten alive, which means they're going to put 10 in the box, and you're not going to be able to run the football. That's the problem. So that's why I say Devon Vele needs to get it going. I would love to see a 30, 40-yard deep post connection today. Like, we need that.
I feel like this is a blowout. I feel like this is 35 points from Utah, easy.
Yeah.
How many points has San Diego State scored?
Less than 20.
Less than 20.
Less than 20. I think high teens.
21-point favorite. Utah is a 21-point favorite.
Yeah, I'm saying,
which is still
I'm
shocking
saying,
to
like,
me.
let's go 45, 17. That's 28 points. Like, I think that's completely realistic. I think mid-40s for Utah. I would expect a defensive gem out of Utah, so that's why I say less than 20. And I know, I agree with you. You roll out of bed in college football and score 21, but I just think that this is a statement game for Utah. This is the get-back game against a decent opponent that can get you ready for next week.
42-17.
42-17.
I'm going to go 42-17, fully knowing that there is a chance that Utah can score 50 points today. I think there's a real chance on that, but I'll go conservative and say 42-17.
Oh, excuse me. You're going to go conservative.
Well, because I agree with you. You stole my line, you thief. I'm the one who always says you fall out of bed in college football and you score 21 points, right?
Yes.
So would it be surprising if San Diego State, hey, Chris Karn's in the building, if San Diego State does not score 21 points, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
42-17.
45-17.
45-17.
Yeah, they get to mid-40s, I think, no problem.
Okay. Anything else we need to talk about? Any other games of note today? No.
I don't think there's another game happening today. We're just kind of out here making some food. And
37 and a half minutes away from BYU and Oregon.
Yeah.
It is very clearly the game of the day. I'm being a jerk.
Yeah.
BYU, Oregon, Autzen Stadium, Eugene, Oregon. Puka Nacua will not play today. And I think also, of note, I think now you have to wonder, what other wrinkles are we going to see from BYU's offense? I don't think there's any doubt that Jaren's going to have to, and I even hate to say this out loud, he's going to have to run and move a little more than he would normally if he had weapons in the game. The guy that I think needs to carry the mail for the offense is Chris Brooks.
Yeah.
He's got to now show us. This is week 3 now.
Yeah.
You've been in the program for months.
Yeah.
You've played 3 games.
Yeah.
There you go. Chris Karn texting me to say that the kickoff's been pushed 10 minutes for TV, which is always the case. Thankfully, it's not for lightning.
Yeah, 4 times.
Because we've had enough of that. But I think you need to run the ball here. Yeah, I think that's what's going – because, one, you need to control the clock. You need to run clock. You need to possess the football. To do that, you gotta run the football. Christopher Brooks has to show today that he is now a BYU Cougar. Yeah,
and I think if you were able to catch the Harris LaChance interview, if you haven't gone to the channel, you can find it easy. But Harris talked about this week that the offensive line wants to have an even better performance this week than they did last week. That he was relatively happy with the performance, but there were little things that they could work on, and I think some of those little things are creating. It's not about just creating that little sliver of a gap to get into the end zone, right? Like if you're an offensive lineman and those 5 guys are working together, the name of the game is to open up bigger gaps, like at least a body wide. And I think for Christopher Brooks, it would be great to get him going on that first possession. Like that's what I would be looking for if I was a BYU fan today. Let's see how they decide to come out in this game. Are we going to get air attack early, or are we going to stay committed to the run throughout this game? Because I think if you do that, you will tire Oregon out, and it will open the passing game up in the second half.
The one point I think that we need to drive on BYU, they should be a better football team than they were last week.
Yeah.
Now we want to see better football this week. Mm-hmm. Now we want to see you take the mistakes you made last week and correct those. And add another touchdown. You can't tell me Jake's going to miss those kicks. Mm-hmm. I just maybe I'm too much on the Jake the make side of it. I have no idea. That kid is a heck of a kicker.
Yeah.
I got to believe he comes through today.
Yeah.
If he came through last week, we weren't talking about overtime. The thing that I need to see more of is the run game. And Harris and I talked about this. I want to see better run blocking.
Yes.
I want to see more complete finishing from the offensive line in the run game. I want to see them be able to run consistently left or right. This is not an A-gap running team. This is a B to the sideline running team.
Speed option.
And I like that. I do. I don't want to see Jaren Hall in a lot of keeper situations. Mm-hmm. I don't. I love that throwback play last week. I thought it was really atypical BYU offense, which I loved.
Perfectly timed.
But, man, it makes you nervous when you see Jaren running down the sideline and taking a hit to the lower legs. Like, I'm terrified of that stuff because I just think he's that good.
Well, and BYU fans have been through it. BYU fans know exactly what it looks like to have Jaren miss a few games. And I think BYU fans' confidence level in Jacob Conover right now is none, and that's not any shade at Conover. He just hasn't played yet, so you don't know what you have.
And Jaren is really good.
And Jaren's really good.
He's elite.
We've talked a lot about how he's improved in the passing game, and I don't just mean by completion percentage. I think he showed last week he's got touch on the football now. He understands when he's got to throw a fastball and when he's got to put some air under it. Like, I think you have to pay respect to Jaren with that. But again, I think the core of their success today is running the football. If you can do that, you really should be fine.
All right, here's how BYU wins the game.
Okay.
No turnovers, and they have not turned the ball over because the core of the football team has been really good, right? Mm-hmm. BYU's won at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. BYU is covered much, much better than anybody thought they would in the secondary. They're actually playing a good bit of man. We're seeing far less rush 3 drop the entire roster in the coverage, right? We're seeing a lot less of that. But on offense, you've got to control the time of possession. I think that is the critical stat of the day. Who possesses the ball longer? If BYU wins the time of possession, they do that by running the ball.
Yeah.
We know who Pini Cateau is. I need a big game from Christopher Brooks. I need the transfer to now be a BYU Cougar, and I think we get that today. Mm-hmm. The offensive line's ready. I think Jaren's ready. I think Chris is ready. I think BYU wins this game 28-24. 24.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good prediction. I think the other thing, I agree with
thank
all
you.
of what you said. Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Because it is the Jake show. It's not the Monty show.
That's
you know what I
right.
mean? Thank you. Anyway, the point is that yeah, I mean, I think that play calling is also a big deal as it is every week, and I think that you can't. There are times where the play calls feel a bit conservative to me, where they sort of just kind of bag it in on third and long, and I want them to stay ahead of that this week. I want the play calls to sort of put the offense in a position where we can see a lot of 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, rather than 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, And I think if you can do that, combined with what you were just talking about with the run game and executing and really getting ahead of it, you're going to be in a great position. So, again, I'm going to stay with what I said Friday, which is 31-27. I think BYU comes out. They have a great week. I think these guys mentally, and this may be the most important thing, I think mentally they're engaged and they understand what they need to do. And, by the way, a guy we haven't mentioned is Max Tooley. I would expect a big performance out of him today.
By the way,
yeah.
the other stat, other time of possession is third down conversions.
Yeah.
Because Oregon's not been great, and Bo Nix is not great. I think Bo Nix is an average quarterback. I'd love to see that secondary pick him off. Another Tooley pick six would be unbelievable. I would love to see Bywater bury his face mask in his chest a couple of times.
Yes.
I'd love to see exotic blitzing. Put Bo Nix under pressure. BYU wins this game. 28-20. I'm sticking 28-24. Do not try to sway me, millennial. I'm not doing it. 28-24. That's it. BYU kicks off now in 40 minutes. Come on down, BBQ Pit Stop in Lehi. Thanks to everybody watching. I know there's a ton of comments. Teddy Wayman says 28-24. Connor Tulin says, where are you guys? BBQ Pit Stop in Lehi is where we are.
Easy to find us. Come see us.
That's right. Greg Hawkins says Georgia is up 45-0 over South Carolina. Georgia knows how to play football. Greg Hawkins, a noted, are you ready? A noted Utah fan picking BYU 28-17.
There you go.
Let's go. For everybody at BBQ Pit Stop, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. Make sure you check out TridayTrading.com/Monty. Until Monday, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.